Hey, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to the Bold Badass Business Owner Show, where we bring you only the boldest and only the baddest and the badassery. And today we have bad Australia assery in the house. We've got Leonie Dawson, you all, who has made over 13 million, did I get that right, in revenue while only working 10 hours a week, y'all. Leonie is a serial entrepreneur. As you can see from her gorgeous background, she's an artist. She's super creative. She's an advocate for the Indigenous people in Australia. And I followed you, Leonie, for the longest time. And I am just thrilled to have you on the show. Welcome.
Oh, bless you, bless you. I wouldn't say that I don't know, an advocate for Indigenous people. I just try and, be do the right thing in terms of being an ally for Black Indigenous people of color and all marginalized
Absolutely.
communities. Yeah.
I just love that you always, though, you include that, and thank you, and we honor the people of this country, and yeah, I just love that
Oh,
because
bless you. Yeah.
I'm in the
It's
United
important to
States,
me.
and people are like the native. They forget, Columbus did not discover America. Damn it,
Mm.
y'all! He did not. There were a lot of people already here. Could we talk about that a little bit? Anyway, Leonie, I'm so happy you're here, and I'm thrilled about what we're going to talk about. So, I know I gave you a super short introduction, but I hate reading introductions. I just hate
Oh,
that.
for sure. Oh, yeah. Me too.
And
Let's just talk instead.
yeah, let's talk. Let's talk. Let's like talk. So what would the people watching this are starting new businesses. Some of them have been in business for a while. And a number of people have in our world have invisible, I hate the word disabilities, but one client of mine calls them invisible disabilities. I
Mm,
hate that word. But a lot of us are neurodivergent.
mm,
I think I'm totally undiagnosed ADHD. And
mm.
I know you talk a lot about this in different formats in your business. So I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about how that's impacted your business for the better and maybe for the worse.
Sure. So I am a late diagnosed person with autism and ADHD. Um,
Hmm.
it did not even occur to me that I was neurodivergent until um, in my I think it was in my maybe in my like in my 30s at some point, and a whole bunch of my dear friends got diagnosed with autism, and I thought, what the fuck? These are the coolest people I've ever met. These are the people that make the most amount of sense to me. This makes zero sense.
Mm.
Um, and so I thought, in order to be a good friend, I should um, do some reading about specifically how autism looks for women, just
Mm.
so that I could understand their story more and be a better friend. And so I read a checklist for autism with women, and I was like, excuse me. Excuse me. I just remember it just felt like the world shifted, and I was like, this is my life. This is me written
Yeah.
out. And so at that point, I absolutely knew I was autistic. I didn't get diagnosed for years later, and
Mm.
then and in the diagnostic process, they discovered that I looked like I had ADHD as well, and
Mm.
they're comorbid. They're up to 75% of people have both. If you've got
Okay.
one, you likely have the other. And there is some new research that's coming out that says that ADHD and autism may actually be the same condition. It's just how it presents differently to the world.
Oh,
Because yeah,
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 that's fascinating.
it's
Wow.
wild,
Yeah.
wild, absolutely wild. Because there's a lot of similarities in what's happening, and it's just how it looks to the world is different.
It's
So
almost like your sun sign and your rising sign, in astrology. You
yes,
know what I mean? Like,
yes,
that's fascinating. God, now you're making me think, shit, I need to read about autism.
I know.
Seriously. And probably I'm guessing, and I don't know if this is true or not. You probably do more women than men with autism. Or is it
Oh,
pretty?
so historically, it's been men that have been diagnosed with this shit because it was
Oh,
based
yeah,
off a
because that's
male
the
profile.
studies. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that they do.
And it's they still don't actually have like a proper diagnostic checklist for women. It has there has been ones created fascinatingly by women with autism who've done them.
Imagine that, right? There's a need, people.
That's right. So I always recommend, like, if you go to leoniedawson.com/autism, you can, I've linked a whole bunch of the female autism checklists.
That's
which
awesome.
is really interesting.
It just sucks that we're still dealing, like 100 and 3 years after we got the right to vote in this country, we're still dealing with this shit where women's conditions don't get diagnosed because the studies aren't done on women primarily. So, man, that's so powerful. Give them the website again, would you, so everybody can go over there?
Sure. It's leoniedawson.com/autism. It's just the place I keep all of my autism resources for people.
Well, you have so many resources, okay? And I just have to, I want to tell you really quickly how you came across my radar, which is kind of fun. A wild woman friend of mine, Liz Bull, sent me one of your newsletters and said, you and this woman have got to meet. And this is years ago. She's like, y'all have the same kind of energy, just wild energy. And I just loved it. I love your renegade, rebellious nature. I love the way everything you do is bright. By the way, I wore turquoise in honor of you today.
Did
you see that? I'm a badass turquoise here. Yeah, I got turquoise in the background too. But, there's a frequency, right, of you that is just so highly creative. And y'all, I want you, those of you watching, I want you to know it's like 6:30 in the fucking morning where Leonie is, right? Isn't it like 6:30, 6:40 in the morning? Like, I would be drenching myself in coffee at this point, to try to be coherent. But, I've just admired your ability and willingness to just be out there with your voice and not hold back. And so often as women, especially, I'm sure it's very similar in Australia as well. I had a mentor who was from Australia, Rachel Jane Groover, and she always talked about the tall lady or the tall woman syndrome.
Tall poppy syndrome.
The tall poppy syndrome, right? Exactly. And, we as women get to really own our voices and our shadow sides, and every bit of us. No more virgin whore bullshit. We get to be who we are in all our range, all our aspects. And that's why talking about the neurodivergence, I think, is so interesting. We've never talked about it on the Bold Badass Business Show, and you've been so successful in business, and you do business on your own terms. You really do. You do it on your own terms. So what would you say, is there a way that the neurodivergence has kind of maybe made you do it more on your own terms? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Big time. Even before I knew I was autistic, I started my business long before I got diagnosed. I knew that I worked in a particular way, and I couldn't fuck with that, and if and when I did fuck with that, I fucked with it and I found out, it hurts. It hurts bad when I did things that were not the right thing for me. It results, when I do the thing that, the wrong thing in my business, it results in, burnout or anxiety or just being decimated, basically.
Like collapse, right?
Yeah. And so things like, at one point my business was growing so much that I needed to expand in some way because we could, the team I had couldn't keep up with work. So we grew, and we had, at one point we had 25 staff working for me. And it was singularly the worst experience of my professional life. I absolutely hated every minute of it.
Because you didn't want to be a fucking project manager, right?
No. And I also do not understand neurotypical people whatsoever. I don't understand when they say things that they don't mean, and they're expecting to pick up the subtleties. And I come across like a raving lunatic to neurotypical people, it's not my jam whatsoever. And so now, so I had to make a decision. Like I either was going to shut the business down entirely, or I had to find a way out of this. I had to right sizes to the point where I really enjoyed it again. So it took, a few years to right size it back to just having one assistant. And so I've stayed to that happy place. And I also know now as well that I really only work well with neurodivergent people. There's a certain language that we share and an understanding. They are smart. They are incredibly empathetic. I can give feedback to them and they will not have tantrums about it. They say, thank you so much for letting me know. I'm so grateful, and absolutely I will fix that for sure. And and they're like, are you anxious, and having to talk to me about that. They're just immediately the empathy comes back to me. It's just beautiful, incredible. And so for me, we really only hire neurodivergent people. And I feel really happy about discriminating in that way, because neurodivergent people are the ones who are discriminated against.
We're geniuses. That's all I have to say. Let's just high five right here. Boom. We're geniuses. Nice. But truthfully, really, I mean, I'm thinking about, okay, now that you say the comorbidity of autism and ADHD, I'm going to go read your stuff on that. And I'm going to okay, yeah, all right. No, I'm not bipolar. I'm autistic and ADHD or whatever. I'm not just a cultural creative. I have there's a diagnosis for this. But, one of my favorite poet friends, Alice Osborne, she's on the autism spectrum. She's one of the most genius people I know. And another artist, Daniel Svoboda, he's really on the autism spectrum. And this kid does these incredible books. He has this whole Imaginaville that he's created, this whole world. You would love his stuff, Leonie. I'll have to share him with you. And he's amazing. His mother just died, which was really sad. She was one of his great marketers and helpers. But listen, what you said to everybody, I want y'all to hear what she said. She was doing this business with 25 people, and it was driving you nuts, right? We've got to have the kind of business that we are happy in. And some of us, I don't want to manage a lot of people. I have a VA. That's enough. I have a tax guy. That's enough. I have a financial guy. That's enough, right? I can call them when I need them. But I really don't want to be a project manager. And so I love that you're sharing that. And the reality is you don't have to sacrifice your profit in that way too. Not at all.
Exactly.
And you're a mom too, right? You're a mom of 2 girls. Is it right? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. One's 13 and one's 9. And they're just such an absolute joy in my life. And, it's part of the reason why I only work 10 hours a week, is because it's my biggest priority is to be a present and loving mum to them. So I built my business around and for them, and it started, but I started doing 10 hours a week because I was working in the Australian government while I was building my business on the side, and that went for many years. And so I really only had very limited time. And then I only left when I was 9 months pregnant with my first daughter, and I had the blessing of a baby that did not sleep for 2 years. And that really clarifies things inside you. And so I had very little, it was it was a miracle if I could even wean 10 hours a week out of that time. I was breastfeeding. She was really only felt safe in my arms. And so I had to be, kind of all in on that process. And you get very clear about what's making money and what doesn't during that process. And I'm grateful because, she's the reason why I've maintained that 10 hours a week or less.
That's really powerful. And that's where I think those of us I'm a single mom, right? And when my daughter, I wrote one of my books in 30-minute increments when she was in the crib. And she would I'd get up early, right? And then she would be like, Mom, and I'd hear it on the intercom, and run on upstairs. But forced me, as you were saying, to get really clear on where I wanted my focus and what I loved doing that would also support me. And support her. At that time, I was married, but I released that marriage because it was more like a prison than it was a marriage, you know? And again, I saw that through the business. I saw a lot of that through the business, and that my business was not as valued as his work, you know? And so I think that so often, you know, as women and mompreneurs, or mumpreneurs, as you say in Australia, I know you won a mumpreneur award, right? It's very important. We can realize that this lifestyle that we have is actually a great boon to our business, because it forces us to get really clear and be really focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like, you know, there's an enormous long list of things that I haven't done, you know, like that the to-do list that hasn't been finished is enormous. And that's fine, as long as I just do the important ones, the ones that actually matter, because there's so much busy work in businesses. There's so much stuff that could be done, but isn't actually necessary. So I try and just stay focused on the actually critical things to the business.
I love that. I'm always harping on RGAs, revenue generating activities, and I call them LGAs, which is love giving activities, because that's an act of love to give this to the world. What is our great passion and our great expertise, you know, it's an act of love. So I love what you're saying there, you know. So how do you, when you, I just have so many questions for you, but one thing I'm wondering is kind of the meat and potatoes, and forgive me if anyone's vegetarian, but, you know, what is the meat and potatoes of a day for you? Like, how do you structure your day? Would you walk us through, and probably they're very different sometimes, right? But walk us through sort of an atypical or a typical, there may not be a typical, but a Leonie day. What's the Leonie structure look like?
Sure. So I'll wake up at 6:30 if I've got a call on that morning, because I've got clients all around the world, and so a lot of my calls are often at the 6:30 time. So I usually do one or two of those a week. I only do maybe like 2 hours max of calls a week. So that's like 20% of my workload, you know, is calls. I don't do any meetings because no, it's not for me. I have opted out of meeting universe.
You mean like
It's
networking meetings, or you
just
mean one-on-ones
any
or
meetings,
yeah, gotcha.
just any meetings. Like I don't have team meetings. I've talked to my assistant that's worked with me for 5 years. I've talked to her on the phone, like, or in a meeting, like maybe 5 times in 5 years. Like we don't need to do that. That's what texting's for.
Yeah.
Um,
And Facebook
so
Messenger. I love Facebook Messenger.
yeah,
Yeah.
just we can work things out that way. So I keep this more for like those slots for, you know, interviews and things like that. Then I help my kids get ready for school, cup of tea, and drop my kids to school with my husband. And then my husband and I will go do errands or go for a walk. And we'll come back, we'll have morning tea together, we'll play. We really love playing games. So we usually play like at least a few rounds of Monopoly Deal,
Cool.
which is super fun. And then by that time, around midday or so, I'll head into my office and I'll do a couple of hours of work. And what I'm doing each day is totally variable. It depends on if I'm recording a new course, or if I'm doing a coaching call for my academy, or if I'm doing sales and marketing activities, or I have come up with this new crazy thing I want to create next. So I'll just do that. So whatever is calling me and interesting me, I'll do that. And then after that, around 2ish, we start getting ready to go pick up the kids from school again, and then spend the afternoon and the evening with the kids.
Wow. Man, awesome. I love it. And so basically about 10 hours, 2 hours of creative work every day, Monday
Mhm.
through Friday, and 2 hours of the interviews. And then the other, what? What's the rest? Well, that's 12, but yeah, like 10 to 12 or
Yeah, so like
roughly
in terms of like, it depends. Like if I'm in production mode, like it'll be like, if I do like 1 to 2 hours of interviews, then I'll have 8 hours
of the
of
work.
the actual work. So Tuesdays are usually my interview days. So I'll have
Hmm.
1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the at midday. And then I also have, like I work with a kinesiologist and she's my coach.
Hmm.
And so I meet with her every 2 weeks. Then I have Pilates once a week. I go have a
Nice.
private session of that, which is awesome. My back has usually got issues. So at some point I've got to go to the osteopath. So I don't know. I feel like I'm busy. I've always got things on. Um,
Right.
yeah. And
It's
oh, it's
enough.
blessing.
And
Yeah,
and
it's
you're
more than enough.
probably the way that you've structured this, what I hear is that, you've structured it so you're focusing on what's most important and you're really productive because you're taking time to rejuvenate. You're
Mm.
taking time to spend with your family, or you're taking time to have tea, time to play, time to eat. And I think that's something that so often, especially the new business owners, forget. And you could just work 7 days a week. I mean,
Yeah.
you could, and you could work 70 hours a week easily.
Yeah,
And
and you will burn out colossally. It will
heck
hurt
yeah,
so
then you'll
hard.
fucking fall on your face. I
Yeah.
totally identify with what you said about collapse.
Mm.
Because I've had deadlines where there was something that had to get done and it became kind of an all-consuming thing. And I don't work that way either. I'm not good that way.
Mm.
I work about maybe 20 to 25 hours a week. That's the
Nice.
max I'll do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like work. That's the other thing. For me, work is a four-letter word.
Yeah.
Work is a four-letter word. And it's the one I don't like. I obviously like the word fuck, but I don't like the word work.
No.
So, it's I want everybody listening just to think about this, that because so often, at least in the United States, people are like, I have to work so hard. I have to struggle as a business owner.
Mm.
I have to do it. No, you don't. You need to get a kick-ass coach, Leonie, me, somebody else who's going to show you what not to do so that
Mm.
you can have a life that you love and you get to the end of your life and don't have regret.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, you don't want
Yeah.
regret.
And I think as well, like having a good list of things that you won't do is really, really useful. Just like having a really good
Yep.
no list. So for me, my no list is I don't really, like, obviously no meetings. I don't really leave the house very often. Um, I have spoken at 2 conferences this year, which is an actual marvel. Um,
Wow.
because before then I hadn't gone to a conference in 6 years. And so I don't travel that much. I don't yeah, like just all of the things that they say you need to do for a business, it's
You
not
don't
for
do.
me. I've opted out. Not for me, thank you.
I love that. And, there's that quote unquote neurodivergence or, I know after COVID, I got like socially anxious. I feel
Mm,
social anxiety. I just
mm,
went to an event earlier in person and I was like, man, I got to put on deodorant, man.
yeah,
It was
it's
this
rough.
moment.
It's
Shit.
rough to
I got
leave
to
the
like
house.
put on pants that aren't
Yeah,
leggings. What the hell? And I have to put on
horrifying.
something other than my Crocs. Are you kidding me? I have to put on
Yeah.
like something that's going to look good on my feet. And I got annoyed with that. I think that COVID has brought out different parts of us. I'm wondering, for you, because it seems like you are very, in some senses, hermetic. you
Mm,
know,
yeah, big time. Massively.
I've become hermetic.
Mm,
That's crazy because people like see me as a big extrovert. No, now I'm like, I love home. I don't want to leave.
yeah.
Um, and that's okay. But
Mm,
it allows you to not be, for me, it's like not getting overstimulated.
yeah.
And as an empath, I just suck up everybody's energy. I'm sure you do too. What other things does that kind of save you from having that sort of hermetic focus? What do you see is
Mm,
possible with that?
for me, I am most happy when I'm alone.
Mm-hmm.
I just love it. It's like the thing that gives me the most amount of fuel. And for my birthday every year, I usually just go away to a hotel for a room, like, and just stay in a room by myself because it's such a treat. What a
It's
treat.
delicious.
Just alone time is magical.
Mm.
I just adore it. So anything I can do to just recharge that battery, um, and gain inspiration. I just feel like there is a deep, rich world inside me, and it takes quiet and not too much distractions
Mm.
to feel into it. And when I go out into the world, it's sort of just it's like it jams all my radar, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, oh no. And it
Yeah.
takes time to recover from it and get peaceful enough to hear myself again.
Oh, I love that, to just have that calm and that peace to be able to lean into what your essence, your soul, your spirit, whatever
Mm.
you want to call that, the creative self within you wants to bring forth. I hope everybody's listening to this, because the hermetic life is so counter to everything that we're encouraged to do. You know, have frenzy, go run here, go run there. And the truth of the matter is, if we want to be highly creative and really own our voice, we have to be quiet and have some alone time.
Yeah,
You know, I want to ask you something personal. Is that okay, Leonie?
please.
You know, because you know I'm going to ask it. I'm going to be like, well, I don't know if I should ask this, but you know, okay. Well, I'll preface it by saying I grew up in a family that my dad was alcoholic and bipolar and kind of out of it,
Mm,
and my mom was a rageaholic, and my brother was getting hit and then hitting me, and it was very violent,
mm,
and there was a lot of abuse. And what I realized that this equipped me for, on the other side of the trauma piece of it, is
mm.
that it made me just deeply imaginative, because that's where I went to. You know, I was in reading C.S. Lewis and going into that armoire to get the fuck away from my dysfunctional as a dysfunctional, that's funny, family, you know. And so my imagination became even more keen. I'm wondering if there were some things that you might share with us that might have propelled your creativity even more from your
Mm.
life. Is there anything that you'd like
Yeah,
to share?
sure. For me, I grew up in a farming family, and
Mm-hmm.
families come with their own particular trauma, because you are exposed to the seasons and the cycles of life
Mm.
in a very, very real way. Um, some of my friends who have farming backgrounds as well, sometimes we like to talk to each other and say like, "Oh, so this happened in my farm, what happened in your farm?" And then we kind of cackle about it and we think like, could you imagine if our children had to be exposed to that kind of shit? Like
Like
for
slaughter of
example,
animals and stuff.
well, like so for example, like horses are one of my
Mm.
most favorite animals on
Mm.
the planet. And at some point there was, I remember growing up, there was a drought, and my parents were, kind of financially devastated by that drought.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the only way they could kind of get through was by um, selling the horses to the local crocodile farm. And
Oh.
so the crocodile farm would come and they'd shoot the horses and butcher them for $50 a
Mm.
horse. And I just think $50 a fucking horse. Like, I wish I could have just had money so I could just buy them
You
all,
could buy them all and start your own horse farm, you know?
That's right. That's
Rescued
right.
horse farm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So like
yeah.
small things like, and I was watching it all. I was
Ugh.
watching the horses be shot and butchered, and because I felt like that was the way to honor them. Like I couldn't
Mm.
look away from the fact that these beautiful animals were going through this. So that's one part of it. But then of course there was, deep systematic trauma as well, in terms of um the best way I can describe it is that my family was at war with its
Mm.
extended family, and that
Mm.
did um, become very violent and ended up going through a lot of a lot of legal study, like, I'm sorry, or go through the courts and things like that.
Yeah.
My brother was killed in a farming accident when I was 14.
Mm.
And yeah, there was just, looking back, there was a lot of wild, crazy energy happening all the time. And one, I knew that I loved the earth and the animals and that I was at home there. And I also knew that when I grew up, I would leave and I would go create a really nice, gentle life for myself. And I have, and it's fucking awesome. And I'm very, very grateful for it. So there were some really hard bits, and I'm grateful for the lessons of it, including my brother dying. I think my brother dying was a huge blessing in disguise. It did not feel like a blessing. It took a very long time for it to feel like a blessing, but it made me understand how much, so much more about being a human and how important it is just to go all out, be all of yourself, and enjoy every moment of it. And that was the extension of, my brother had cerebral palsy, and he had significant disabilities, and yet he also just did absolutely everything he could with that disability. And he was so friggin' brave and just did remarkable, wonderful things. He was second in Australia for high jump. He was training for the Paralympics, and he was always just saying, "Well, you've got 2 arms, 2 legs, and a heartbeat. Go do it. Like, of course you can do it. Just you've got this." And all of his friends, because he was part of a huge disabled community as well and worked at a disability farm, they all had this amazing bravery in terms of just going all out to do all the things that they could with their abilities and be all of themselves in the process. And it was so incredibly endearing. And I feel so fucking lucky for having been, a part of that community. And I think it taught me some really big, deep, dear lessons about just completely accepting who you are and just enjoying the fuck out of it and going all out with what you can do.
Because we never know what's going to happen, And at 14, I mean, it sounds like he packed so much life into his years that, and his legacy.
He was 25 when he died. It was me that was 14. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So that's just, wow. I teared up because I lost my brother a couple of years ago, and it was right before he was turning 57, which is no comparison to your experience, but it's still young.
It is.
And I am so grateful because the latest book I'm working on, which is really going from victim to victor, is really about, it's a book for him too,
Yeah.
And his voice is coming in, and there's this child voice coming in, and it's like the legacy of those we love lives on in us and lives on in our businesses if we're willing to let those voices come through, like the voices of they are our ancestors. And then the voices of the ancestors we never knew. If we're willing, they're going to come through. It's funny. We just did a show. And we talked about talking with the dead, Leonie.
Oh, I love it.
Because I have some abilities there, and I had a medium on the show, and we had a lot of fun with this about, how we can have guidance for our business from those we love. Their legacy really does live on in us if we will listen.
Yeah.
And they'll speak through us,
It's so true. It's so true. I feel like I feel like I'm always talking with the dead and
Yeah.
honoring the gifts of my ancestors. And I thought this is so funny. I have to tell you. So I talked to a pet psychic a couple of weeks ago
Uh-huh.
because we have
Yeah.
a dog, and she is 19 and she is refusing to leave the planet. And we're like, she's okay. I'll
He's
just
hanging
talk
out.
to a pet psychic, see what he says. And it was hysterical, like for me, nonstop, because he was like, "Oh, I'm talking with your dog. She's not much of a dog, is she?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "More of a cat." Yes, that's exactly it. And he's like, "Okay, well, she's telling me she will die whenever she wants on her own time, and she's not listening to what I say at all." And I was like, there you go. Yep, no, that's exactly our dog. Um, and then he started talking with my dead dog, Charlie, who I just
Mhm.
was absolutely beloved to me. And that was hilarious and beautiful and wonderful. And then he was like, "Oh, and I do have a young man that's come to talk to me." And I was like, "Oh, yes." And he's like, "And he died at a young age in a traumatic way." And I was like, "Oh, yes, that'll be my brother." And one thing I want you to know about my family is we all like there is a number of us that have quite large egos.
Mm.
Like I have a very high ego. My assistant calls me delusional, and I am here for it because I call myself the 10 out of 10 complete package. Like I am. It's a complete
I'm
package.
perfection incarnate.
That's right. I'm just, like, what else can I do? What else can I do? And then my dad, bless him, he just, he's 60 in his 60s, and he still refers to himself as the wild stallion that all the women want. And it's just foul. It's just like, "Oh, I don't need to hear this, Dad." He's like, "Well, it's true. I can't change the truth." And so my brother comes in, and Michael's a very sweet psychic. He's like, "Oh, this young man, he's very cocky." And I was like, "Uh-huh. Yeah, 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 yeah." And he goes, "Oh, and he's given me a message to tell you, and it's a very strange message, but I have to tell you and just trust that it makes sense." And I'm like, "Uh-huh." And he's like, "Your brother came in just to remind you that he is very, very, very good looking." And I said, "Yeah, no, that's my brother.
That's
That is
perfect.
perfect. You've got it in one." Like, what else would he tell me? What
Well,
else would he
right,
tell
it's
me?
even more beautiful now that he's left his body, right?
I know
He's everywhere, right?
I
I
know.
love that. Well, I love that the pet psychic was able to get that information too,
Oh, I
because
know.
that's
Cracks me up.
amazing. Well, there's so many levels to life, and I really do. I am very systematic, and I know you are very strategic, obviously, about how you spend your time and what you spend it on. And I want everybody to just hear, though, that at the same time that there's that, that left logical brain, it's the left side, right? There's also the right brain, intuitive, emotional intelligence, and the part of the brain that Einstein said we never use, which is most of it. There's this, and there's so much more that we can perceive if we're willing to listen. And it can actually help in our business. It can
Yeah.
help in our business. We can seed it before you got a problem in your business. Actually, before you go to sleep, ask your guidance to help you go have a meeting with whoever you've got the problem with, or you have a meeting that's coming up. Ask your guidance to help you go meet with them and set it all up before you meet with them. And it's interesting how that can impact, and I say that being somebody who loves results, too. Totally
Me.
result oriented person, and very ethereal too. So
Yeah.
that's something I love about you. And I just think, you obviously have such ways of stoking your creativity. When you say I don't travel, well, all I could think was, well, you don't need to because you're traveling in your mind all the time, right? You're going to interesting places in your imagination. So how do you stoke your creativity? What do you suggest to people who are on here who may feel like they've totally lost their creativity? They may feel like through the grind of having a business and, this idea they have to work so hard that maybe there's no time for creativity. What would you say to them?
I think just having a little room of one's own can make all the difference. I'm just looking because here's my little room of one's own. I've been keeping an art journal since I was 16.
Oh,
And I've been using the same style art journal that whole time. And every weekend, it's art journal time. And I'll go through and I'll paint and I'll collage and I'll make a mess and I'll take notes on e-courses. I'll print out emails that meant a lot to me. And I use this time just to explore and write letters to myself
oh,
and
beautiful. Wow.
just have a delicious time. And some of them are, they're messy and imperfect. And I don't really give a shit how it looks at the end. It's more of just like, what needs to happen next?
What needs
What
to
can I do?
merge?
Yeah. What wants to play? And then, like this, like it's just the kids and me just splattering with paint. And the joy of these art journals is that it doesn't matter what it looks like at the end. It just, whatever feels good and right. And then as well, like I get to do these like little paintings
Gorgeous.
of experiences I've had. And I just feel just so lucky to have that time in my art journal every week. And it's not something that I really do for my business. It's something that I do for me. It happens usually on Sundays or Saturdays. And just playing really and giving myself that time to explore things. I also have, I don't know where it's gone. It's
Can I say something though that was coming through? I've got to say that. And by the way, my daughter's going to come home soon. She'll probably stick her head in. She's 16. She just started her first art journal. So I can't wait to show her this. You were just, that was divinely led and she's loving it. My mom, by the way, is an artist, a visual artist. I play with visual art. I'm a poet and a writer more. But what I love is I'm going to show her this. I'm going to be like, look, Celia. Yeah, we've got to have that time, like a open space to create without judgment. The adult coming in and saying, how dare you finger paint, But what I was seeing, what was interesting is you were showing, especially the paintings are they watercolor? I couldn't tell.
They're called layer cake paint. They're developed by an Australian artist, and they're like gouache mixed with watercolor mixed with acrylic. It's just incredible.
It's beautiful. Well, I just see you having a digital art gallery. Digital art gallery. You can have art in the, what do they call it? I have an interview on it. Talon McTavish in the Bold Badass Business Owners. It blew my mind. This interview blew my mind. You can have and he's a digital artist as well as teaches people about AI in his business. But you can have a digital art gallery and people can purchase and own your work in the, what's the name of it? Oh, I can't think of the term, but it's in cyberspace. How cool is that? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Watch that interview. I'm telling you, I could see it. I could see the gallery. It's an actual on the computer gallery and people purchase the art. And
oh, bless. Is this like NFT stuff?
I think so, but I am not totally versed in that. So I'm going to just say, here's what I'll do. I will send you the exact URL to that interview. Okay.
Perfect.
So that you can, and I'll send it to you in the support team so that you can look at it. Cause it blew my, the blockchain. That's the word I wanted. Blockchain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. So you can have this art gallery in the blockchain and he sells his incredible art on there. And I definitely see something like that for you. And maybe, I just finished a children's book, Leonie, and I'm playing with all these things I can put in it, like coloring pages they download, all this other stuff. Because I don't want it to just be a book or just a Kindle book, I want it to have other stuff that kids can engage with and like an origami piece that they can fold and have, because it has a cat and it has this cool bird in it. Like you, I'm an animal lover. Always rescued animals when I was a kid, always, and still do. Always. Yeah, always. And I grew up with horses too. So I feel like you've touched so many things that I love. I knew this interview would be amazing, but you've just brought forward in me, and I know you've brought forward in everyone listening, memories, memories of things that we loved, that maybe we forgot about, and awakening that, and people that we love that maybe we haven't thought about. And it's time to have a little conversation with the dead and talk with them,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I even
Wow.
did at some point this year, I think it was my last art journal, I realized like I was starting to forget all of the people that I've loved and known who've moved on. And so I
Yeah.
did a big piece in my art journal just of every single person that's in a grave somewhere,
Mm,
just so I can and try and remember which graveyard they're at and things like that,
wow.
because they've meant a lot to me. And I find like
Mm,
I've just turned 40. I'm sure, perimenopause will be starting to work its little magic through me.
yeah.
And I'm still bleeding, but
Mhm.
I know that when I do bleed, it's more intense than it ever was, and it feels like the veil between worlds, um,
Yes.
it's thinner. So that's kind of my ancestor time when I'm bleeding currently.
You know what? I see. The other thing I'm seeing right now is I'm really seeing that as being, I know you have tons of products and y'all have to go to Leonie's website and look at all the amazing stuff she's got. But wouldn't that be pretty, not pretty powerful? It would be fucking powerful to have a journal, which is the remembrance journal, where people can go and they can actually, you provide them a framework to remember the people who've moved on to the beyond.
That's true. You're right.
I mean, yeah. And get the messages to like tune into the messages.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be freaking, Dionne Warwick sort of 1-900 call. I'll try to keep you on the phone and give you a psychic reading. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It will give people a framework to explore
Mm.
that. That I could see that too. All right, we're getting product ideas. So hey, why the hell not, right?
That's true.
Um, why the hell not? I know how creative you are, and I admire your focus and getting things done. You produce a huge amount of work in so little amount of time. You really
Mm.
do.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. But then I also just don't feel like it's that unusual. Like if you
Hmm.
stop doing the busy work and actually just do the important shit, you can actually just do a lot. And I still feel like I'm not really at full creative power. Like I think I could
Yeah.
try.
Well, but you're 100% perfect, remember?
It's true. 10 out of 10 complete package.
You're a 10 out of 10 complete. I love to say I am perfectly imperfect and lovable just as I am. That's it.
Mm.
I'm perfectly imperfect and lovable just as I am,
Yeah.
And nobody likes, well, I should say this while the Barbie movie is out, but nobody likes Barbie. We like people because of their fuck ups. We like
Mm.
people because they share the parts of themselves that are unhealed or that were wounded and traumatic. And we like people because we admit our shortcomings and we're transparent, right? You're very transparent in your newsletters. And that is incredible because in business, there's so much fucking hot air out there,
Yeah. Yeah. I tend to ignore a lot of it, but I just like try as I might, I don't think I can really cotton on to that kind of real polished, like, that polished thing, because there's nothing to
Yeah.
grip onto, and it's very uninteresting to me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to get my hair and makeup done to do videos. Why the
Yeah.
fuck would I? Men aren't, so why the fuck am I supposed to cover up my incredible face? I
I
can
love
take up
that.
space just as I am. Um, and I also like don't want people to feel like I haven't made mistakes, because damn, have I made some mistakes in business. And
Yeah.
it's really fun sharing with people so that they can go, oh, she can fuck it up, so can I. And like I'll also like one of my favorite treats is like if a friend in business makes a mistake and they share it with me, I'm like, oh God, that would feel awful, honey. And I just want you to know I've done this mistake. And like, for example, I got addicted to a game called Star Stables, and it's where you run around. It's like tween girls all over the world do it, but you run around on your fake horse and you collect digital costumes for your horse, and it's very fun and very addictive. And I got very obsessed by it late last year, and I spent 6 months on it, and then I went and did my figures, and I realized I'm $100,000 down in revenue, and I was like,
it's because of Star Stables.
it's because I got addicted to fucking Star Stables. So I've spent $100,000 on playing stupid pony games.
But that's okay because it was fun at the time, right?
It was so fun. I had the most amount of fun, but I did have to just like say it's a hard no, Leonie. Until you retire, you cannot be trusted with that, because I have a very passionate personality, a very intense personality. And when I saw that I could, win all of the costumes in Star Stables, that became a primary source of dopamine for me. And I do need to keep my dopamine centered on creative tasks instead.
Right. We need to get the dopamine from completing stuff in our business, or at least getting it to a point. We never complete anything, but getting it to a point where we share it. That's a dopamine hit right there, and that's why so many people are gamifying business now, and that addiction piece is very interesting that you brought that up, because think about it. If somebody can get us addicted to it, they took in the 100,000 is what they did. They got that 100,000, but that's okay because you had fun, right?
I had the most fun.
You had the most fun, and what a great story. Star Stables. It makes me think of, did you ever read, I don't know, in Australia, I guess they have these, but Misty of Chincoteague. Did you ever read those books? Oh my God, you need to get these, Leonie. Maybe I'll have to send you some. I just gave away a whole set, damn it. Misty of Chincoteague, and these are these wild ponies that I'm in North Carolina in the United States on the East Coast, and in Virginia, Assateague Island has wild ponies, and they do a wild pony swim every year and bring the ponies over, and then you could buy a pony. And I bought a pony, Leonie, years ago. I was the only one who would bid on that pony. It was a yearling. It had serious issues. Got it for $125. Yeah, but these are such great stories, And so when you were talking about that, I was like, that's the nowadays equivalent of all the Misty of Chincoteague pony stories, because I was totally addicted to those, as a kid. Totally. It's just a different kind right now. We just got the digital thing. So interesting. Well, I want to be respectful of your time and everybody else's time. And I know, here's the thing, we like to give away shit on Bold Badass Business Owners. So would you like to give everybody here something interesting that's on your website or your whatever you've got? Yeah, give them whatever you want.
Sure. So if you go to leoniedawson.com/free, I have literally dozens and dozens and dozens of free shit to give away to people, including like 300-page coloring books that I hand illustrated myself, or I've got marketing workbooks on there. I've got meditations. I've got workshops. I have illustrated notes from every conference I've attended. There is a lot of stuff on there that I love to give away for free. The free shit page of my website is by far my most favorite to keep adding.
I love that. I've consumed your paid stuff, but I haven't been to the free page. Damn.
Oh, babes,
it's go over there.
It's good. And of course, if you've got any of my courses in Kajabi itself, when you go into that learning platform, I've got like a free inspiration library, and it's got all of them just piled in there for you as well.
Love that. So do you know the work of Sark, Succulent Wild Woman?
Do I ever? Sark is one of the most important people ever to me. She was the beginning of everything for me.
I love that. Yeah. Because as I was getting ready for this and I was just kind of tuning in and centering, I was like, I bet she's in that Sark tribe.
I'm so in. She, when I found a book of hers, I just knew like, oh, this is exactly what I've been looking for my whole life. And, part of it was just her absolute acceptance of being, a succulent wild woman. Yeah. And then also the way that she writes her books with handwriting and pictures and it was just exceptional. And then I joined her marvelous message board, which was her forum back in the olden days. And I met some of my dearest friends that I'm still dear friends with to this day, 20 years on. And she kind of found me through her forum as well. And I went in to be featured in 3 of her books. And Sark is just everything.
She's amazing. I got to do a seminar with her. She came to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And it was just, I thought, okay, so I'll be honest. I thought, okay, this is going to be the flakiest piece of shit seminar I've ever been to, or it's going to be incredible. It'll be like off the charts. And it was off the charts. Oh, yes. It was so fabulous. And I remember putting together this bag of stuff, Leonie, I will confess, because I'm such an admirer of hers. And it was just stuff that I wanted her to have. And I gave it to her like, here, I want to thank you. And it had a letter in it about what her work had meant to me. It was a nun in an artist colony who first told me about her. I was writing poetry with Robert Creeley, who is since deceased. He's one of the beat poets and amazing spirit. And this nun who was doing these incredible 3D art things said, you need to look at this woman's stuff. And yeah, isn't it interesting? There's this tribe there of wild women, visual poet, what would we even call ourselves? Women who just speak the truth. And it was some of her talk about incest that really opened me up to being able to look at some of the things from my childhood. I mean, she's just out there. For those of you who don't know who we're talking about, it's Susan Ariel Rainbow Kennedy. She goes by Sark, S-A-R-K. And she has so many books out and decks of cards. And I think one of her first things was this poster about how to be an artist, that probably when you see it, you'll know it. Just an amazing, incredible, prolific artist and writer and great business person. So I would suggest everybody look at that and definitely read Succulent Wild Woman. And she does include some men. She has some succulent wild men that she includes too, just to let y'all know who are on here watching. Well, Leonie, this has been so fabulous. Would you say again, just one more time for everybody, where to go to get all that free shit?
It is leoniedawson.com/free. And it's LEONIE.
I love that. And of course, everybody, go grab my report on how to overcome overwhelm in 7 easy steps at spirited-solutions.com. And I got free shit there up on my website too. Some shit you can get too. Like it's more like, interviews and stuff you can listen to, but go check it out. And Leonie, I'm just thrilled that you've been here with us today. And really, you've gone deep for us. I appreciate that you were willing to share some of the things that have sparked your creativity, to really reveal some things that, not a lot of people would reveal. And I think it's so helpful because it gives other people permission to own our experiences and own our losses and own the gains we've had through those fucking losses, because there are always gains there too.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Any last words you want to say to everybody to take from today? I'm thinking about the art gallery and the that journal, the remembrance journal, or
I just want you to know that even when you feel like you are alone, disenfranchised, disenchanted, discouraged and jaded, I promise you a rebirth is coming your way. I promise you the tender miracles are still working their way through the surface. I promise you, even though life could be hard and challenging and confusing right now, I promise that the meaning of it will all unveil itself in time, and that you will feel whole and radiant again.
Wow, beautifully said. And you may not feel like a bold, badass business owner right now, but you obviously are. because you've been here with us today. So don't forget that. And don't forget that somebody else is watching you. You may not think they are, but they're watching you and they're admiring you. They're thinking, wow, I wish I could be like her. Somebody else is watching you right now thinking about that. So that's how we'll end today on Bold Badass Business Owners. You all tune in every Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, which I guess is 4:30 a.m. in Australia. But you can watch them anytime on the YouTube channel too. And y'all, please go subscribe. I am committed to getting the subscriptions going on that YouTube channel. I have not been on there that much, so I've been mostly on Facebook, but I am committed to having that YouTube grow and grow and grow and reach so many people. Thank you again, Leonie. You're a blessing and a joy, and I've just had so much fun with you today. Thank you.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Barsley. What a joy to spend this time together.